Then we move into maybe deeper perimenopause, sort of mid-40s or even late 40s. And we're beginning to notice a lot more changes. I divide out these symptoms into 3 groups: physical changes, emotional changes, and cognitive changes. Brain fog, short-term memory loss, forgetting words. So many women say, yeah, like you're beginning to think like, maybe I've got early onset dementia. What the hell is going on? Like, and it can range from, putting your car keys in the fridge to wondering why you walked into a room.
Welcome to We Ain't Normal. My name is Charmaine Fuller, and I'm an everyday mom sharing how I navigate my ADHD brain. Each week, we share tools, inspiration, and resources to help you uncover how to reclaim your time, energy, and focus. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Now on to our show. Are you looking to shut down some of the open tabs in your head? If you're a professional mom with ADHD like me, girl, I feel you. And this is why I created the Simplify My Life newsletter. The Simplify My Life newsletter shares real life tips, resources, and support to help you shut down the noise and navigate your ADHD life. Trust me. This is the one email you'll be looking forward to opening in your inbox. Join today at the link in the show notes below, and I'll see you there. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the We Ain't Normal show. And today I have my girl on here, Jacqueline Rose. She is the menopause guidance goddess. I mean, this lady has all of the tips, tools, supports that you can begin to use to take you along on your menopause journey, which I know as with me, as well as a lot of you, my listeners, are experiencing right now. And even though there's a lot of information out there, it's still kind of hazy on, what can be done and how we can support ourselves in this journey. So that's why I brought Jacqueline on, because I know a lot of us are going through this right now. Jacqueline, could you please introduce yourself, who you are, how you roll, all that good stuff?
Thank you so much for having me here, Charmaine. I'm really happy to be here with you. And I've just written down Menopause Guidance Goddess because I am loving that title you've just given me. I call myself a Menopause Educator and Coach, but I'm happy to be a goddess any day of the week.
You are. Your stuff is great.
Okay, so who am I? I am Jacqueline Rose. I am a married mum of 5 kids. I am 48 and well in perimenopause, but I will tell all the women listening, even though I am in perimenopause, I am not suffering with my symptoms. And I know we're going to get well into the conversation. I will tell you how you can navigate these years of midlife, perimenopause, menopause, and even postmenopause with ease, joy, and confidence. I am all about really supporting women to change the way they understand and experience their menopause journey. And I come at it from a holistic, integrative approach. I am a yoga for women's health teacher. I am a therapeutic yoga teacher. So I'm really very much about that mind-body experience, that mind-body connection, and what is going on physically, how it impacts you emotionally, and in the reverse, that real two-way street between our physical experience and our emotional experience. I'm also a hormonal health specialist. I come at my sort of women's health from a functional medicine approach, and I integrate it with my yoga. I also do functional blood work analysis, and really, I am anything and everything to do with women's health from a slightly different approach.
It's from the approach that I always suggest for people to try first, right? Like this, the approach that you have toward menopause and toward perimenopause, from what I've learned and what I've been using, is actually great to keep symptoms and the things that other people say they have at bay. Because a lot of the things that, I've read about, like the dryness or can't sleep, like my hot flashes have decreased. Like I used to strip all the time, not so much anymore. I'm not experiencing any of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel weird, like, but this is what they say I should be going through, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Can we touch on a little bit what perimenopause looks like? Because I know we were talking a little bit before we got started. And when I started going through perimenopause, I just thought I was sick or something. Like, I just thought it was something else. I didn't even think that it would be perimenopause, because the thought in your head is that your period just magically stops and that there's, there's not this progression. So what does that look like? What should women start looking out for?
Thank you so much for saying that, because yes, the assumption is, oh, my period, like menopause is my period stopping, and my periods will nicely, slowly sort of get less and get shorter and get lighter. And one day they'll just stop, and one day I'll just nicely come into menopause. Or there's the image that it's going to be hot flushes. It's going to be like very typical, like moody, if I'm allowed to say the BITCH word.
You can let it fly, girl.
Like moody bitch and like mood swings and like crazy woman, like that's what it's going to look like. So either like sort of this nice, gentle period stopping, or this like crazy woman that doesn't know what the hell, who she is anymore. And both of those are partly true, but very, very stereotypically mythological menopausal women. And yeah, let's really understand what is perimenopause, because so many women begin to notice changes and don't realize what is going on with them. And many of them will go to their doctor and won't get the answers. I can't tell you how many women come to me saying, my doctor never even used the word perimenopause. It wasn't even a word that came up in conversation. Pause is a date in the calendar after you have had 12 period-free months. So 12 period-free months, pop open the champagne, you're in menopause. But there are years leading up to that date, up to that 12 months. And all those years, whether they be long or short, 2 to 5 years to 10 years for some women, is perimenopause. And that is from 40 plus, your body starts to change because your hormones are changing. So that can look like at the beginning, you just don't feel right. Maybe changes in sleep, vaginal dryness, low libido. Maybe your breasts feel a bit different, tender or swollen. You're beginning to maybe notice that you're not as patient as you used to be. A lot of different things. Your body just doesn't feel the way it used to feel. You're not responding to things in the way you used to respond. You used to be able to manage with that crazy juggle of work and kids and running around and after school activities. And we just sort of did it. But now either you can't do it as well or you don't want to do it. And that is sort of what perimenopause begins to look like. Then we move into maybe deeper perimenopause, sort of mid-40s or even late 40s. And we're beginning to notice a lot more changes. I divide out these symptoms into 3 groups: physical changes, emotional changes, and cognitive changes. Brain fog, short-term memory loss, forgetting words. So many women say, yeah, like you're beginning to think like, maybe I've got early onset dementia. What the hell is going on? Like, and it can range from, putting your car keys in the fridge to wondering why you walked into a room to having your to-do list in front of you and just not being able to do it. I'm at this stage now, it's literally been for the last week, where I prefer to watch old reruns of Grey's Anatomy than do my to-do list. Grey's Anatomy season 1 is excellent if you want to procrastinate.
Oh my gosh.
That type of thing. Yeah. So it's sort of all of that cognitive changes. And also as professional women, as entrepreneurs, as leaders in our profession, as, we've worked years in our career to get to certain levels. And all of a sudden, you're not showing up the way you used to. You're forgetting things in meetings. You're not completing your tasks. And there is a lot of shame and fear and worry attached to that. And and the emotional changes. And that's also something that is happening. You know, obviously we have the mood swings, but there's also anxiety and possible depression and who am I and changing identity. And if you've got weight gain, if your body is changing shape, which it's going to do, that's what happens. Who am I? I had a cousin of mine got married in January, and I wore a dress that I had worn previously, but it didn't fit me right. I didn't feel comfortable in it. I went to this wedding and I just did not like the way I looked. And then, thank God I'm blessed with lots of cousins. I had another cousin get married just a couple of weeks ago, 3 months later. And I turned around and I said to my mom, I need to go out and buy something that I'm going to feel comfortable in. I don't care what size it is. I don't care, you know, what the shape of it is, but I need to feel good in it. I am not wearing that dress again that I wore. It was for me 10 years ago. I'm throwing that dress out. I don't want that dress in my closet. I need to go out and find something that I'm going to feel happy to be at a wedding in and feel comfortable. And that mindset shift, that change is part of perimenopause. And some women avoid it and they bury their head in their sand and they have that black dress in their closet or those jeans in their closet that they are sticking to and fitting into and closing and whatever they can do.
Eat, they can't move. It's just hell.
Yeah. And the real process. That is also perimenopause.
Oh my gosh. I can so feel you on all of those. And ladies, I'm sure you're probably like, amen. Hell yeah, that's me. Like, oh my God, I thought I was going crazy. Whew, Jesus. So it's so complex. And, you know, from what I've had to discover and what I've experienced is that the amount of grace that one has to impart on oneself during this time is huge. You know, like I'm still having cycles, but they're completely different because that cognitive, you know, because I already had some cognitive stuff going on. So like if you're neurodiverse or you've had any type of brain injury, this is going to impact you like it's never impacted you before. And you're really going to have to slow down.
Yeah. And so many women get diagnosed with ADHD at this stage. And that this is not to say that ADHD may not be a correct diagnosis, but for many women, if they have never had any symptomology or have no family history or nothing with an ADHD or ADD sort of relatable diagnosis in previous years. And again, I'm not talking about neurodiverse. I'm not talking about anyone who's had other challenges in previous years, but I find so many women get a new diagnosis and it's just incorrect. They get diagnosed with anxiety and depression and given antidepressants. Yep. Again, that doesn't mean you're not experiencing anxiety and depressive behavior, but the diagnosis is what's incorrect. And the treatment and approach that then comes from that diagnosis
does not fit what's going on.
Exactly.
So that's what I find a lot too, even in this community, because sometimes ADHD, and again, not taking away from the neurodiverse community because I have a neurodiverse family. I myself am neurodiverse. But what tends to happen sometimes is people go through these stages, or maybe they've had some sort of traumatic event, which then presents itself as that thing. And yes, that could be something you're experiencing, but it might not be your permanent diagnosis. So just being mindful of when you go to the doctor and you're saying, hey, I'm just super anxious, kind of look at the time of life that you're in. You know, if you've never, like, you know, I've been in the neurodiverse train my whole life. But like, if you haven't been on the neurodiverse train and you can't really, like, you can't figure out, like, why would they give you ADHD? Dig a little bit deeper, perhaps go to another doctor, and just see what's going on, because a diagnosis is good when it's the right diagnosis for you.
Exactly.
And it can really help you to heal or to manage. whatever it is you're going through. So just really be mindful of that, ladies, as we go through this time. 'Cause I've noticed that too. A lot of women in this stage, you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm ADHD.
Yeah.
And I've even asked the question, like, well, you know, especially women I've known for a while, I go, well, that's interesting. Like, I never would have considered you to be ADHD. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so even helping them to dig a little bit deeper. So again, you know, we got to say this in this culture is that we're not taking away from the neurodiverse community, just
100%.
making sure that what you're getting is fitting you.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I also think that it changes the way you approach your symptoms.
yes,
The symptoms are the symptoms. We are not negating the symptoms. We are not negating your experience. And women going through perimenopause and menopause can experience an array of different things that can change, that can get better, that can work, can get worse. New things can come on. There are between 50 and 75 different ways that perimenopause and menopause can show up. So, and it's not a one and done. It's not like, oh, I've got, brain fog now, I'm always going to have brain fog. But so the symptoms are the symptoms, but we need to understand it within the context and framework of where are you in your life cycle? Where are you in your hormonal cycle? What is going on? And the diagnosis has, it has power. If you're diagnosed with ADHD or you're diagnosed with depression, the treatment is going to be very specific. And again, the symptoms are the symptoms. We are not negating that. But to really have someone who understands the nuances of what is happening at your stage of life can be really profound. And if your doctor says, yes, you have anxiety and depression, but I see this in the context of perimenopause, that can change the whole conversation.
Yeah, it really can. What you're really saying, and ladies, again, this has been the entire theme of the season. Awareness, 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 awareness. Knowing what's going on, what's going on with your body beyond a period app. The entire theme of this season has been motivation. But I want this to give you the motivation to start tracking your emotional, your physical, your cognitive state beyond a period app. Period apps are great, but they are for women mainly who are trying to have a baby or reproductive years or just keeping track. I've played around with some of the menopause apps. They made my brain hurt. I found it easier to do it with a note with my journal each night and kind of just noticing when, now when I track my cycles, when were my days of my most cognitive struggle? When was that? What did that look like? What was I eating on that day? So it's really helped me to fine tune when I have that donut. Not that I don't have donuts anymore, but when I have that donut, when I decide to have a quote unquote cheat day, because if I know I'm going to have a real cognitive struggle or a real physical struggle, I'm not going to stress my body out even more. I'm going to pull back and, do the least that I can do, so
I think that starts coming into our conversation of, so what do we do about it? And I think you are 100% correct. I have heard from women that all these apps that track and monitor your symptoms and your cycles, they end up becoming overburdened by the tracking. I always recommend pen and paper beyond anything else. But more than that, and you are 100% correct, is listening to your body. What is going on, and begin to see the patterns and the trends. So if you are noticing that every day after lunch, you are having an energy dip, or you are feeling lethargic, or you have more brain fog, or you're less able to focus, it is not the fact that it's the afternoon and you're more tired. Let's look at, what did you eat for lunch? Or did you even eat a lunch? Or what? When you start sort of tracking those things and you start to learn, oh, you know what? After I went out and I had some, a glass of wine or 3 glasses of wine because I went out with friends, and the next day I was exhausted, that begins to tell you that your body is responding to things differently. And I think one of the main mantras that we have in this sort of women's health, perimenopause, menopause space is what worked for you before may not be working for you now.
Exactly.
And that applies to sleep, to food, to exercise, to stress, to movement, to really anything and everything in your life cycle and in your lifestyle. That, you know, in your 20s, you could have dieted and cut the calories for 2 weeks and fit into that, you know, gorgeous dress that you needed to wear for that evening out. That will not work in your 40s anymore. The exercise
it's going to piss you off is what it's going to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to make you exhausted. It's going to give you cravings. It's going to make you moody, and you're not going to fit into that dress. You're not going to lose the weight anyway. So
no, because of the inflammation and all of that stress, it's so different after 40.
Yeah.
Also,
exercising, the way that we used to exercise in the past needs to be different now. The way that we sleep, everything, just what worked for our bodies in that age and stage of our life is intrinsically different now. The problem is, and the challenge that happens is that women are not educated and are not told by the medical healthcare system what that now looks like. How have things changed? How do we have to navigate and manage our health and well-being so that we don't have these debilitating symptoms? What does a healthy lifestyle look like now in our 40s and our 50s? That information is not so much out there.
That was the next, you're actually moving into the next question I was going to actually ask you, which is, how do you navigate this? You know, now that we know how it looks, now that we kind of know, you know, how to begin to notice when these things are cropping up for us, how do we navigate that? How do we navigate the hot flashes? How do we navigate, you know, all of these different, you know, the exhaustion or, you know, the brain kind of fogging out? How?
Okay, great. Well, that's exactly what I do is the how. So let's start off with a couple of things. You can do it in a more proactive, engaged, holistic way. And without any shame or judgment, I'm not saying it's an either or, and there is no, I'm not putting any sort of emotional attachment to either of these things, but I will talk a bit about both. There is that more holistic, natural, listening to your body more. What are the things I can do to get more proactive, to change my health and well-being? And then there is also the hormonal therapy, the HRT route. They are not mutually exclusive. They absolutely can happen together. There are plenty of women who want to go down the HRT, hormonal replacement therapy route. That is a whole massive big discussion. There is a lot of emotional conversations around that topic and conversation. I want to put it out there because it is, for some women, a legitimate path to healing your symptoms. The only thing I want to say about it is one way of healing your symptoms. And there are plenty of women who choose to do the hormone therapy route. But my only caveat with that is, if you are still leading a stressed out life, eating a poor diet, not moving, working crazy hours, it doesn't matter how much hormone therapy you're going to take. It is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole.
Girl, say that again for the people in the back.
It doesn't matter how much hormone therapy pills or patches or creams you are using. If you are still leading a stressed out life, eating a poor diet based on carbs and sugars and processed foods, if you are in front of your computer at your desk, 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, if you are not moving, it is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. Your hormonal therapy will only work for a short time. It will only heal you for a short amount of time. That is not a long-term strategy, because the triggers for your hormonal imbalance are all still there because your lifestyle is still triggering hormonal imbalance.
Yes.
Okay.
We could just drop a bomb and just leave it at that, but keep going, girl.
So whether you do or don't go down the hormonal therapy route, we still need to, at the end of the day, look at hormonal health, hormonal balance. Now, we know that perimenopause and menopause is a natural, normal, hormonal fluctuating time. However, how we arrive at perimenopause, our hormonal health as we enter perimenopause, and how we support our hormonal health and well-being throughout our midlife, throughout our perimenopause and menopause, will impact how we experience these years and how we are set up for postmenopause years. And that is something that I really want to touch on, because we think postmenopause is over there. Like, postmenopause is so far away, I don't even want to think about it. I'm even not coping with the fact that I'm perimenopausal. Don't even talk to me about postmenopause. But the whole point of perimenopause and menopause is this journey, this like bridge from our fertility years. And I say fertility, reproductive years, whether you have had children or not. It is a biological stage, sort of fertility, reproductive years. Postmenopause is that other end or last stage, which can last 30, 40 years of your life. It's not the end of your life, but it is the last stage of your life cycle. And the bridge is perimenopause, menopause. So how we arrive at perimenopause and menopause hormonally, health-wise, lifestyle-wise, impacts our years in that stage, but then also impacts how we spend the next 30, 40 years of our life in postmenopause. And we really want to start adopting all those health and wellness strategies that are going to create long-term hormonal health, hormonal balance, and hormonal resilience.
Wow. I never even thought about the connect.
Yeah.
Never, ever. I look at it, and I'm sure many of you listening look at it as these separate events and not as this connective piece, but everything is connected. So it would only make sense that this is your setup phase to how you're going to experience your next phase. Oh, now I just got a diamond drop from me, because again, it's like, okay, this is perimenopause. I just need to make it through this.
Yes.
I hadn't even connected that.
Exactly. You think you're in survival mode, but what you really are in, can I share my definition for menopause? I know we talked about the biological definition. Yes. My definition for menopause, and it's really talking about it in a more spiritual way, is the menopause is your journey to becoming your true, authentic self.
I would have to agree with that, because never has there been so much awakening during this time.
Yes.
So much less people pleasing, so much getting really clear on who I am and what I actually want to create in this life. Like, the creation gene has been on like 1,000,000.
Yeah. But then that journey sets you up for the postmenopausal woman you are becoming.
Wow.
And that postmenopausal woman you're becoming is exactly as you've described. You are confident in a different way. You are wise in a different way. You are willing to share your thoughts in a different way. You're not willing to sit back and just take things anymore. And we are creating. And I think the creativeness is really important, because during those reproductive fertility years, again, whether you've had children or not, whether you're a mother to your biological children or a mother to other children, we are very biologically geared for biological creation in those years. And the biological creation is about sort of, again, not casting any judgment to what has actually happened in your life. We're talking purely about the biology. Our bodies are biologically designed to create life, to give birth. When we go through perimenopause and menopause, that creation has stopped, obviously, because, our periods stop. That is the biology of menopause. But the creativity of ness has not been lost. It has just been redirected. And we are now being creative in a very different way. We are giving birth to ourselves. We are rebirthing ourselves as women. And we are being creative in a very different way. How many women in their 40s start a new business? How many women in their 40s and 50s leave their jobs but don't go into retirement or into pension? They set up these other amazing initiatives, whether it be, a charity or a community service or, yes, being entrepreneurs. Our creative energies are shifting. And everything is changing for us. And the question is that I ask all my women, how do you want your postmenopause years to look like? Because the answer to that question begins with navigating perimenopause and menopause in creating hormonal health and well-being at this stage. And yet, not just surviving and trying to figure out how I'm going to muddle through these symptoms, but how do I actually look at this stage of life and ask myself, what am I going to do here? How am I going to take control and be more proactive in becoming setting myself up for the next stage of my life?
Wow. Wow, wow, and wow.
I know it's big, but but Charmaine, these conversations are not being had.
No, they're not, because a lot of the conversation is just around kind of the here and now and not on the long-term building that you're doing. Like, for some reason, it's so funny because everything that you're saying, I apply to every other area of my life, but never have I ever thought to apply it to my body in menopause and how I deal with perimenopause and how I experience it and what I go through. And that now makes me even think about making other shifts, life changes, supplemental shifts that are going to set me up for the long game. Because girl, when I tell you, honestly, I had never thought of, to me, the long game was just, again, my period's just going to stop and now we're going to be smooth sailing and done. And that's not exactly what it is,
No. And especially if you have not put the strategies in place now. If you haven't put the strategies in place now, I have so many women who come to me experiencing symptoms in early postmenopause. And they're like, but I'm postmenopausal. Why do I still have symptoms? And women don't get it. Because the symptoms are there because you have not made the changes that need to be made.
Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. Oh my gosh, Jacqueline, where can they find you at in these internet streets?
Okay, so I am at Jacqueline Rose Women's Health all over social media. My website is Jacqueline Rose Health. I also have a Facebook group, the Menopause Sisterhood, where I share all my tips and tricks and strategies and information about hormones. I just really, though, want to make sure that women know that there is a different way to navigate these years.
Yes.
And it's not that symptoms are not a prerequisite for perimenopause and menopause. There is plenty you can do to help relieve your symptoms.
Amen, amen, and amen. Lady, she is the real deal. I have known Jacqueline. Has it been 5 years?
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
And she is the real. When I tell you she is the real deal. The wealth of support you will get from her and her programs and groups is just fabulous, because we learned from the best, didn't we, Miss Stacey Walker?
We did, yeah.
And it's gonna be a great space for you. So please, if you're in peri or just menopause in general, or just thinking about it, hop over on to visit her on social. I can't sing her praises enough. Jacqueline, thank you so much for rearranging your life and giving me some of your energy, knowledge, and time today. I am grateful. I know my people are grateful. This is going to help so many. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me, Charmaine. Really, you're doing amazing work.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it freed you to see your life a bit differently. Make sure to check out those show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's episode with all the important links and resources. If you want weekly exclusive episodes with me personally, make sure to sign up for my Simplify My Life newsletter. I'd love to know what you enjoyed about this episode, so leave a review to let me know how I can continue to support you. So Mama, I want you to know, you're doing much better than you think. You're further than you believe, and you're worthy to have it all. So until next time, stay weird and keep doing you, babe. Coming up next time on the We Ain't Normal show.
And I really want to take a note for especially women. I find that, and I'm going to say this because I believe in strength training a lot. I also power lift, so I lift heavy weights, and I find, and I'm not saying everybody needs to lift heavy weights, but I think where I'm going with this is that you early mentioned how you're dealing with premenopause and stuff like that. If you're in your 40s, and even sometimes in your 30s and 50s, you are going to hit menopause. Menopause is going to affect your bone density. It's going to affect your way of life. It's going to affect how you, the type of, how your body adjusts over time and where your weight sits. If you're not actively trying to improve your overall bone structure and your health at an age, even starting now at 40 or 30s, your lifestyle will deteriorate.
Want more of this episode? Make sure your podcast notifications are on and you're a part of the We Ain't Normal family by going to thecharmedlife.show to get weekly podcast updates and notifications. I'll see you there.